Good day, traders. This is Cloud Chartist. I forgot to do Crude in my weekly Ichimoku chart wrap up, so I'm just doing a quick video on Crude to make up for that, and I'm going to make it a multi-time frame video. This is actually the second time I've tried to do this today. I had some kind of technical fail earlier, so actually let's get started on the weekly time frame. All right, well, actually, before I zoom in, let's just look at the overall picture on Crude. So you see that this is multiple years. This goes back to, this is 2013 back here. So in the overall picture, you know, we had that big sell-off, but then what looks like is probably happening to me right now is a reversal pattern. This looks like an inverse head and shoulders reversal pattern, which is quite typical of what Crude likes to do when it likes to reverse. So I'm sticking with that analysis. And if we zoom in, we see that Crude did make the transition from being bearish under the cloud to being above the cloud. So unless it loses this inverse shoulder area, like around 40, I'm going to stick with the thesis that this is a reversal pattern forming here. So with that thesis, it's tricky to figure out where to draw the neckline, right? Because it's not real obvious. So, you know, it's got to be a funky neckline in order to hit enough points. So say we did something like this for the neckline. That looks pretty decent to me. I mean, this, you know, we have an inverse left shoulder, a head, inverse right shoulder here. So we really need to get back above, you know, around 50-50 in order to trigger the upside move. Notice that we do have this gap to fill back here from last year, 2015. You know, so the measured move on this, if we were to draw from down here around 26 to the neckline around 50, you know, that's a $24 measured move. So Crude could see back up to 75 just based on this pattern. So I just wanted to point that out since we are looking at it at the moment. All right. As far as last week's weekly candle, this is the new candle forming here, so I'm going to be talking about this one. Last week's weekly candle was quite bullish. Came down and tested the Tenkan-sen on the top of the cloud and put in a significant bounce up to this trend line that I had drawn from shorter time frames. You'll see that as we move through some other time frames. This analysis on the weekly and you'll see on the daily is on the continuous contract. The reason I do that is there's just simply not enough data on the active contract in order to get the Ichimoku clouds drawn properly. I'll show you. Here's the X6 contract. Obviously, we can't work with that. So back to the continuous for the weekly analysis. So it's important to remain above the cloud and above the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. The Tenkan-sen's down here at 45.23. So if we do get a pullback, you know, if we do get a trend change to the downside, that is the 45.23 is where I'm going to be looking for us to find support. It's not looking likely at the moment, but you never know. The OPEC meeting, you know, seems to be bullish, but also nobody trusts the OPEC meeting, right? So anything can happen, really. So let's go to shorter time frames. Let's look at the daily. So on the daily time frame, you see that we're in a nice uptrend. The bull flag is happening with continuing higher highs and higher lows. We're above this trend line that I previously mentioned. We did see potential tweezer tops here, but so far that is invalidated with today's candle. If we do get a pullback, I'll be looking for that 46.53 Tenkan-sen to support. That's where it is today. The Chikou, this red line here representing price action, time shifted 26 periods into the past, so 26 days in this case, is above the cloud. So everything is full-on bullish on the daily time frame. Now I'm going to go to the X6 contract on the daily as well because it's a little bit different and it has important information there as well. So we see that Chikou has actually made it into the cloud. Previously, earlier today, let me zoom in so it's easier to see. Earlier today, the Chikou had been stuck between the top of this candle and the cloud, but it has actually made it into the cloud. So for the moment, the Chikou has support at the bottom of the cloud, which is around 48.28, and has resistance at the top of the cloud, which is up here at 49.33. As far as current price action, we see that we're putting in higher high and a higher low. At the moment, we are putting in a bit of a topping tail at the moment. If we do get a pullback on this specific, the X6 contract, we could find support at the top of the cloud at 46.64, and then also at the Tenkin Sen slightly below that at 46.53. As far as the configuration of the clouds moving forward, it's looking pretty sideways. This type of thin clouds with flipping action suggests a tight trading range and sideways price action. The cloud actually ends up being like a little bit lower going into the end of the month, but then in the beginning of November we see that the cloud is starting to slope up again. So we could possibly chop around for the rest of the month and then move higher. That's a possible scenario. Or we could trade up to, this area around 49.25, 49.50, and then pause. So that's a scenario, possible scenario also. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame. And this is the preparation that I do as an Ichimoku trader. I look through every time frame I possibly can to prepare myself for, even if I'm going to be trading intraday on shorter time frames, I really want to know what's going on the longer time frames as well. So the 4-hour chart, we have a really nice bullish uptrend. It was invalidated at this point when we put in a close under the 4-hour. So if you were long, say you were long from down here or something like that, you would have been able to stay in the trade. But when we put in this close under the Tenkin Sen here, you probably would have gotten stopped out or wanted to get stopped out, especially because we challenged these prior levels here. But then we got back on the bull train, put in a nice bull flag here, some sideways consolidation, continued to hold the Tenkin Sen and blasted higher. And then the last two 4-hour candles have remained on a closing basis above the Tenkin Sen. The Tenkin Sen has gone flat. Whenever the Tenkin Sen goes flat, it suggests we need a little bit of sideways price action, or maybe a lot of sideways price action to sort of correct sideways, because we are pretty overbought on this time frame. You can see that we're not quite redlining, but we're pretty close to redlining on the RSI down here. The RSI is really just a confirmation for me visually to show something that's already quite apparent looking at the visual aspects of the Ichimoku, which is that we are extended above the cloud. However, and whenever, Ichimoku is based on equilibrium, so whenever we get extended either above or below the cloud, price has a tendency to want to come back to equilibrium, like the same principle as Bollinger Bands or an elastic. When we get stretched, we want to return to a natural state. So if we do end up pulling back, we can look for support at 47.96 right now, the flat Tenkin Sen here. If we lose the flat Tenkin Sen, then you might not want to continue to be long, because we could correct lower, like say to this prior important 47.25 area, and then which is about 50% between the Tenkin Sen and the Kijun Sen, or we could go all the way back to the Kijun Sen at 46.53. And then if we did lose that level, then we could come back and test the cloud. This is still fully bullish in Ichimoku terms, and we do have a really nice rising cloud support. That's really what you want to see if you're in a bullish trade. You want to see this nice rising and thickening cloud support. Let's look at the hourly. On the hourly time frame, we see that we've had a flat Tenkan-sen for some time. This candle, this red candle here, was the opening candle when we got a lot of selling after a bullish overnight. I don't know what this move was on the European Open, but I'm not really sure what caused it. I was asleep. So we see that we are currently, we did put in a close above the hourly Tenkan-sen on the last hourly candle, and the current candle is still holding the hourly Tenkan-sen on a closing basis. So it's cool to stay long crude if you are long crude based on this time frame. What could happen to invalidate this trade is if we lose the Tenkan-sen at 48.36, we could get a bear cross, meaning the Kijun-sen, which is very close to the Tenkan-sen, this pink line here, could cross over the Tenkan-sen. That would be bearish, especially if price is below it. So keep an eye out for that happening. We do have some strong bottoming tails here, so obviously there's buyers in this area, but it's not a very high volume day, so you know anything could happen, right? So let's go to the 30-minute time frame. 30-minute time frame, we do have a bear cross, so the Kijun-sen is bear crossed above the Tenkan-sen. But both the Kijun-sen and the Tenkan-sen are going flat. The Tenkan-sen's tilted down slightly, but the Kijun-sen is flat. So the Kijun-sen is the primary area of support on the 30-minute at the moment, 48.36. If we lose the Kijun-sen, then we could come down and test the Tenkan-sen. If we continue to put in candles above the Kijun-sen, it's likely that the Tenkan-sen will start pointing upwards again and then come up for a bull cross. We do have a nice supportive rising cloud, a very strong ramp up here. That's at, right at 5 o'clock, the end of the day. So, pretty bullish if we can remain above the cloud. We might get into some troubles around 1 o'clock a.m. when we have a thin cloud right here, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's look at the 15-minute time frame. So the 15-minute time frame, we are still maintaining price action above the cloud, and we do have a nice rising cloud that we are holding here. So it looks like we could be retesting this tweezer top here, and there is the potential to invalidate the tweezer top. You can see this consolidation area is, pretty choppy, and a lot of indecision and selling when we get back up to like 48.75 area. So that's going to be tricky if we do get back up there anytime soon. If you are long right now, it's important that we stay above the cloud here. If we break back into the cloud, then we're going to have support at the bottom of the cloud down here around 48.33. The Kijun-sen is just slightly below that at 48.31. In order for this chart to be fully bullish again, you really want to see the Tenkan-sen cross back over the Kijun-sen for a bull cross, and you want to see both of these indicators get back above the cloud. As far as the Chikou goes, the Chikou is right now coming into resistance at the Tenkan-sen, and it's actually being resisted by the Tenkan-sen, and it's under the Tenkan-sen. To be bullish, you really want the Chikou to be able to be back above the Tenkan-sen. So that's like, back above like the high of this current 15-minute candle, so back above 48.50, let's say. Once the Chikou does get above there, if it does get above there, it's going to run into trouble up here getting above these candles. And even if it doesn't get back above the Tenkan-sen immediately and it moves into this general area here, it's going to have trouble at the bottom of these candles, or potentially at the bottom of these candles. It could travel sideways and be stuck under these candles as well. So that's why I would never take the Chikou off my charts, because it's so handy to see what the Chikou is interacting with over here, because over here we don't have a lot of information except for the cloud, right? So if price action is above the cloud here, you know, you don't see anything here, but you have all this information for the Chikou to interact with. So very handy stuff, the Chikou on the Ichimoku. All right, I'm not going to go any shorter time frame than that. I see that we're catching a nice bid on the ES right at the moment, which is very good since I am long both ES and SPY calls. So I apologize for leaving CL out of my weekly video. I was really rushed last night and I just spaced it. I actually look up at my regular watch list, and it has all the index futures first, and CL is like way at the bottom, and it's usually important to me, and I usually remember, but sometimes I space it. I'm sorry. Anyway, thanks for watching. Good luck trading today, and hopefully tomorrow we'll have better volume when Germany is back in the mix. Take care, and if you are interested in continuing to get notification about my videos whenever I post a new one, do subscribe to my YouTube page. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter @CloudChartist. Thanks again.